Welcome back to Aftershocks here at AftershocksTV.com. And on with us today to talk about their great new record, We're the Bastards. It is bassist Tyla Campbell, one of the Bastards himself, from Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons. So, Tyla, how you doing, man?
Oh, yes, I'm very good. Thank you. Yeah, I've had a good couple of cups of tea in me now. Got them all caffeined up and ready to go. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's definitely good to talk to you. And like I said to you right before we started, man, it is great to get new music from you guys, man. It's you guys are one of those bands I think maybe some people missed because they just thought, okay, well, it's Phil Campbell, it's Motorhead, it's going to be a Motorhead rip type of a thing. And it's
Yeah.
just not. Anybody that's heard it, that's listened to the EP or to the first record will certainly know that it's not that. And certainly you guys really established yourself even further with We're the Bastards, man.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's always going to be like trepidation where people will just, because obviously we don't try to sound like Motorhead, but
Sure.
obviously Phil, the guitarist in Motorhead for 30 years, so naturally some riffs might sound a bit like it. So I think some people are expecting like a Lemmy vocalist to like,
Right.
and they're just expecting to hear Lemmy, and some people just can't get into it. That's obviously totally fair. But I think with the difference with this album and the last album, I think yeah, like you said, I think we have naturally progressed. And I think the main thing was with Age of Absurdity, I think we released the song Dark Days, which was like a slower, bluesier number and was probably our most out the experimental song. We didn't know how it was going to go down. But it
Sure.
ended up being our most like popular songs. We play it live. I think it's got our most views on YouTube. So once we knew that song went down so well, we knew we could experiment a bit more on this song. We got songs like Born to Roam and the Desert Song, which are kind of like a similar vein. So yeah, I think it's a nice, good selection of songs that is quite varied to an extent, but I don't think anything sounds too out of place. And yeah, I just can't wait for the world to hear it on November 13th.
No question. Now, obviously with you and your brothers and obviously Phil Campbell, it's got the family thing to it, and I really think that the part that gets ignored is your vocalist. Obviously, I mean he
Yeah,
is very dynamic on his own merits, and like you said, no, there's no Lemmy mistaking with him,
no.
but he's just got a very unique but welcoming sound, I guess, for the kind of rock and roll that you guys do. It's like that voice that people kind of gravitate to. Is that what you've been experiencing?
Yeah, I think so. We've known Neil for years, so he was in basically when we were all younger. Well, we still are in various bands. Me and my brothers, and we used to tour with Neil's old band, Dopamine, and
Okay.
Attack Attack. A lot of people get confused because there was a UK Attack Attack and a American Attack Attack.
Right.
So I think the American Attack Attack they're a kind of bit more screaming. So I think they're a bit different to Neil. Some of them might be expecting a screamer, whereas not. But yeah, got a very dynamic like voice, and I think he proves it live on record. I think the one thing with our band, we kind of got like three different generations of people. When we got my dad from that classic rock like style from when he's brought up on the 60s and 70s. Then Todd and Neil were kind of brought up on the grunge era, so their favorite bands were like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden.
Right.
And then I think me and Dane were kind of a bit younger then. But I think that's why it's good. We have like this big melting pot of influences and styles, and I think that's how our music comes out as it is. You might hear a bit like a Led Zeppelin hook with like a Pearl Jamish, like vocalish melody over it. And yeah, I think it's cool how it all works out in the end.
No doubt. Now you said you're the youngest. What were you listening to? Were you Corn guy, or were you listening to the older stuff?
Yeah.
Or what was it that brought you in?
So I think what literally my first concert when I was like 5 was Motorhead. I think so.
Okay.
When I was like 8 or 9, when we used to like school discos, and it's just like Backstreet Boys and the Spice Girls, and like, what? Why is no one listening to like Metallica or Joe Satriani and stuff? So yeah, I was Joe Satriani, Metallica, but then what was good when I got like 10 to 11, when new metal came in, more of my friends of my age were getting into that music then. Before that, no one was. Oh, I suppose not expecting a lot of 7-year-olds to listen to Metallica and stuff. But it was good to get. I think everyone listened to like Limp Bizkit, Korn, like System of a Down, and then that crossed over like pop punk, like Blink-182, Sum 41. I liked it all back then, and I still listen to a lot of it now. But yeah, I think one good thing I can say is I'm glad I was brought up in a rock family as opposed to ending up being like a Spice Girls fanboy for life, which could have happened. Who knows?
Yeah. Although somehow, and again, this is outsider doesn't know anything. I imagine throwing on a Limp Bizkit record in your house did not go over real well.
No, yeah, I don't think my dad was never a massive fan. No offense to that. I think it's just that era, you know. There's a new style of, but it happens in every generation. Every 10, 15 years, there's a new style of music, and it comes up. But I think over the years, he's gone to respect all those types of artists over the years, and yeah, I think it's cool. It's always nice to hear something fresh and new. And at the time, there's nothing, we never heard anything like it before.
Sure, definitely, man. Well, Tyler, let's talk about We're the Bastards, which is what we're here to talk about. As I said, I love it. I think it's fantastic. And one of the things that I think really stands out as somebody that has been following along since the beginning, since the EP came out, is that you guys, I don't want to say your sound has changed. I think it has matured some over the years, but I don't think anybody would be put off if they listened to the first record or this one. But what I think you guys have learned over the course of the EP and now the 2 albums, the 2 full lengths, is you've really learned how to capture your sound. This one, We're the Bastards, is by far the biggest sound that you guys have captured, and it's arguably the most dynamic. Do you guys feel like you've learned to capture what you're doing better?
I think so. I think, yeah, we're all songwriters because we've all been in different bands and stuff, and I suppose when we write in the EP, we're just getting used to like writing songs together. Then you say with the albums, we're getting more used to it. And then I think, like I said earlier, with like Dark Days, and we knew we could explore our horizons a bit more. And yeah, my dad always says, you just write a good song is a good song at the end of the day. So no matter what style, that has a catchy riff. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. It's a good hook or whatever. And yeah, I think that was that thing they say, that difficult second album, don't they? But I think I was a bit slightly worried. Well, I wouldn't say worried. I think we were happy with how good Age of Absurdity was for a debut album. So before writing We're the Bastards, did have a slight thought in my back of the head. It's like, oh, how are we going to be able to follow this up, or is it going to be a disappointing second album? But I think after I heard the first mixes of the album, and I was like, yeah, this does sound banging. I was like, the songs are good. I think we got there, and yeah, I think it is exactly how you say it is. I think we've all matured as co-songwriters and got used to it ourselves, and yeah, I think there's a great collection of hard rock songs.
Absolutely. Now I read in the press, and you can tell me if the press is just being the press or not, but I read that this thing was completely written and recorded through the pandemic, through the beginnings of the pandemic. Is that true? And if that is true, did that make it much more difficult to put together, A, such a good record, but B, such an up record? Because it's definitely not depressed like everybody seems to be through the pandemic.
It's half true. So we wrote like January and February in rehearsals.
Okay.
And then I think we went into full lockdown March 17th, I think, in the UK. Okay. And we already booked the studio time with Todd to record in April. And obviously social distancing and stuff was very serious back then. So the recording process was definitely different, because I recorded my bass in the live room with just Todd in the other room. I was on like Skype with my laptop, and yeah, I just recorded no one else in the band was in the room. So we all Dane did the drums on his own, whereas we're all there together. So yeah, I was saying, you got his pros and his cons. So the cons the cons, which could be a pro, is like sometimes it's good to have all the rest of the band there, and they can pitch in ideas or give you feedback whilst you're tracking your individual part. So that was different. But then I suppose at the same time, it was good just being your own headspace and not have any other distractions and just concentrate on recording your instrument. So, yeah, I think it was definitely different. And it was also a bit more interesting because, like, I didn't hear the drums until I went in and tracked my bass. And then I didn't hear the guitars until, I don't know, because Todd recorded it. He'd send us mono mixes like at the end of 2 weeks or whatever. So it was different hearing them in different stages and stuff.
Sure.
But it was an interesting way of doing it. But we don't think we came over. There wasn't any major problem. So to say if we're, God forbid, we're in a similar thing next year,
Right.
we'd have no worries about bashing out another album and getting to record it again. So yeah, fingers crossed next year. Yeah, I'm just glad to get some new music out there and can't wait for the people to hear.
Sure. Now, do you think that that the sound of the songs will change a little bit in the live setting just because you didn't record and write, in a room together where, obviously when you play live, you take cues from the drummer and the guitar player and the singer and everything, where on this, you kind of were on your own island. Do you think the music will kind of adjust a little bit when you start playing live?
I think so for one song or two. I can't remember right now, but there was a part where we were writing, because yeah, we still wrote the album with together.
Sure.
But I think it was we had like one idea where we could imagine like we do a breakdown by ear and get a crowd to sing. Like when we, on the first album with Get On Your Knees, we like break down and it's just me the guitar and the drums doing that. And Neil gets like a sing along, like call and response to happen. Get on your knees, get on your knees. And like we had that idea when writing the song. I was like, oh, this would be a cool live bit for when we play live. So yeah, there's definitely one or two bits where we thought that could sound good in a live set and we'd change it up a bit. Well, we always try to come up with nice ideas to get the crowd involved. So yeah, hopefully I just want to go out and play a gig now. So
right.
We haven't played a gig all year. Our last tour was in the start of December, and we were supposed to play some shows with Michael Schenker in April in the UK, and obviously that's all been postponed now. So yeah, it's going to be an entire year of not playing any concerts for us. So
yeah,
big crazy.
Well, I wanted to go back a few years because you guys obviously, as a brand new band, had the opportunity of a lifetime with the going out and doing some shows with Guns N' Roses in the stadium environment. Yeah. I'm imagining, maybe not for your dad, but I'm imagining for the rest of you, at least that first one with 60,000 people or whatever, that had to be unbelievably nerve-wracking, man. How was that to go out there and play such a big show as such a young band?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we couldn't believe it really, because I remember I'm like the day-to-day manager for the band. So I remember our booking agent at the time, like forwarding the dates. All right, this is what I got planned for festivals next year. And as a new band, like you say, and I was like reading it, and I was like, wait a minute, it says 4 shows with Guns N' Roses. And he didn't like say, guys, I've just got you 4 dates with Guns N' Roses. Here's a list of 10 dates. So yeah, 4 dates for Guns N' Roses. So I screenshotted the email, sent it in our WhatsApp group. Neil straight away called me and thought I was joking and it was a lie. It was like, are you playing a practical joke? And I was like, no, this is serious. So that was unbelievable. Yeah, and I think the first show was in like a big soccer stadium in Switzerland. And yeah, I think the first show was crazy as it was, but I'm very nerve-wracking. But it was fine. It was great. Well, it was more than fine. It was amazing. But then the second show, which was, I thought usually, the first show you get over and done with, fine. The second show is, it goes back to normal. But the second show was in an old Formula One racetrack in Imola in Italy, and it was like 100,000 people there. And for some reason, they opened the doors at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we were the first band on at 5:30.
Oh wow!
And it was one of the hottest days I can imagine. So by the time we were about to go on stage, the crowd was just so up for it. Right. And it was just one of the best days ever. And then we kind of, I think we were kind of bricking it just before, but after the first song, we kind of just got into an element then. I think after we nailed that show, and then the other two shows were fine then. It was like no nerves whatsoever. But yeah, unbelievable experience I'll never forget.
Sure. Now I have to ask the question, and be honest on this. After those gigs, when you went back and played the first time you played a club or something, was it just totally a bummer to be in front of like 200 or 500 people instead of 100,000?
I wouldn't say it was a bummer, no, but it's quite funny you say that because when we're not touring and gigging, I have like a little pub band. I got a singer, and sometimes we just do acoustic gigs. So literally, some weekends I'm doing like major festivals, and we do like a big crowd shot and then I'd fly back. I remember once, yeah, I'd fly back. I got to my local pub half hour before we do on stage.
Okay.
And I just played in front of like 20 people for like £50 or whatever. it's fun. And my singer is always like, oh, I can't believe it. Oh, another one was, yeah, again, did a weekend of like big festivals. Came back and we played outdoors in like my friend's office party. It was like a mini festival, but it was like just kids and a little baby swimming pool and like a burger van and a bouncy castle. And literally just before we were playing the first song, he goes, "You played to 70,000 people yesterday. And right, here's Sex on Fire by Kings of Leon." And then we're just going to a bunch of basic covers then. So it's fun. I enjoy all sorts. As long as I'm playing music, I don't mind what environment it is. It's always good fun.
Exactly. There's worse careers you could have, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
No,
except our government's telling us we have to retrain because our jobs are inviolable at the moment. But that's another story.
With any luck, that's going to pass, though. But
yeah, fingers crossed.
Well, Tyla, obviously I guess the initial lure, the initial sell of the band was that you guys are all family, with the exception of Neil. But that you guys are all family. Y'all grew up together. Your dad's obviously legendary in his own right, with the mighty Motor. I'm curious for you, now that you've been through, a couple of records, a few records, and some touring and whatnot. What is different touring with your dad as opposed to prior to touring with your dad when he was just your dad? Has your perception of him changed, or were you raised enough in it that you knew what was coming, or what?
I think it's a bit different now because he's definitely chilled out a lot. Like he doesn't drink anymore for the last few years.
Sure.
Mainly, and I sometimes tour manage. So when we can't afford a tour manager or we're just too cheap to do one, I get that job. I don't mind. Sometimes we can afford it, sometimes we can't. But yeah, so it's mainly me just looking after him, telling him where the toilets are, telling him where food is, trying to work out how the DVD player works on the tour bus.
Right.
It's pretty chilled out. Basically, yeah, after each show, we chill in the back lounge. We have our slippers and pajamas on. And you want me to tell you more interesting stuff that happens? The truth is, these days there isn't. We just watch some films and DVDs and stuff. Sometimes I might, if we have a day off, I'll go to the local pub or bar with some of the crew and stuff. But yeah, I think after Motorhead, it took him a while to like get used to and adjust to the, playing the smaller venues, so like smaller crowds, and obviously not being as glamorous per se. Because like even if we're doing festivals, sometimes we say it's like a festival 4 hours in the UK down the road, we gotta go. We're in a van, or we gotta do a weekend in a van. So obviously Motorhead wouldn't have done that back in the day, but I think he's used to it now, and it's great. So yeah, it's good fun. We won't change it for the world. We have some problems every now and then, as all bands do on the road. But it's fun getting. I like to problem solve and figure out logistics. So hence why it's co-managed sometimes. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I just can't wait to get back on the road and experience it again.
Sure. Do you guys solve problems as a band, or do you solve problems like brothers?
Maybe a bit of both.
Okay.
So the thing with, but I think it's five. Obviously, it's five of us in the band. So say if like two say yes and two say no, or either or like somebody's on the fence, and then the executive decision will go down to my dad. It's like, right, dad, you decide, and then we'll be like, it'll just be like, oh yeah, fair enough. Then some you win some, you lose some, so
Right.
it's kind of good. But I can never imagine being in a band when you're even numbers. I don't understand how people would come to any agreement. I don't know how that works. It's not good maths.
Right. No, not. Well, Tyler, we've been dancing around a little bit, and obviously we're talking about the pandemic has just kind of fucked everything. You
Yes.
know it, I know it. It's a mess. It's a mess for bands. Let's just go with the expectation that the pandemic's going to lighten up and governments are going to say that you can tour again.
Yeah.
The thought process is that it's really going to be hard to get gigs, especially for a younger band like yours.
Yeah.
Because every band in the world is going to be looking to get out on tour all at the same time, which has never happened before. There's always that kind of cycle, and everybody's on different cycles to where
Yeah.
rooms are available. Do you worry that when everything opens up that it might be difficult to put together, touring?
I think basically this year, all our dates we planned ahead because we assumed nothing is going to happen this year. So we, luckily enough, can reschedule everything ahead of time. So
Sure.
our UK tour was supposed to be this November. We've rescheduled for next November. Scandinavia was supposed to be September. Rescheduled next September. I'd say 80% of the festivals have rescheduled for next summer, but like some festivals was going to be their first year.
Mhm.
And when we've tried to reschedule, they said they can't even afford to.
Sure.
They've lost so much money they can't do it next year. So unfortunately for them, those shows aren't going to happen. But yeah, we've booked a German headline tour for April, just so again because we don't want to like come to like January and everything's back to normal and then everyone's looking for those venues that are available.
Right.
So we've just gone and booked them ahead, and then I imagine if they don't happen, we'll look at in January and book them for the following April. And so luckily enough, we're just kind of smart enough to just book everything a year or two in advance because I don't know, it's just hard to see anything happening till I don't know next summer
Yeah.
earliest. I'd say so.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. And, one of the things that I've been, obviously doing this, I talk to a million bands and I've been paying attention to how some countries are making it a little easier to play shows than others. And
Yeah,
which on one hand, that's great that you can go and play some places. On
yeah,
the other hand, especially touring outside of your home country, that's going to be a nightmare if you can play Germany, but not, I don't know,
yeah.
France or wherever, or Norway or,
Yeah. And
is
I've not
that,
taken into account Brexit.
yeah, I mean, do you worry, do you as a musician, do you worry that just being able to route something is going to make it extremely hard to play anywhere but at home?
I think I kind of agree with you. Like it was going to be tough anyway, like post Brexit, with because basically we'll have to like pay for all tax on merch before you even make money on the merch, and a lot of
Right.
bands they basically they want 10% of the t-shirts you're taking into the next country, and you haven't even got that money yet because you haven't sold them. So a lot of these upcoming bands they're not going to be able to tour anyway, besides their own country. And also with the pandemic, has made things twice as hard. Well, more than twice as hard. So it's hard. There's a lot of things like in Wales, we have a different government to like England and UK. Is a very strange political system. But so whereas, like I said, I played in pubs and stuff. In England, for ages, you've been able to play like in pubs, outdoors and indoors if it's socially distanced. But in Wales, I haven't even been able to play outdoors in a pub like in the summertime. So
Sure.
but then I saw yesterday there was a big concert in London Palladium where it was 1 meter social distancing and everyone had to wear masks. So I think every country's doing things differently. I think I've seen Germany, I would have assumed of course, Germany's better at doing it than every other country. They seem to be doing a lot of socially distanced concerts, where it's like financially viable on everyone involved. And I've seen like Doro Pesh, she's done a lot of socially distanced concerts in like her old car parks and stuff. People are doing drive-throughs. So yeah, I think each country's handling it differently, but I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely going to be more difficult. That's for sure.
Sure. Do you guys have any interest in doing drive-in concerts or live stream concerts or any of that kind of stuff?
I personally, I'd be happy to do. Technically, I would be happy to do both, but I'm slightly worried. I think it's just safety, everyone's safety, and I think, especially because my dad, he's in like a slightly vulnerable bracket compared to like young. So we got to think of his health as well. So I think I wouldn't. The UK announced a lot of big UK drive-through concerts, and they all got pulled. Live Nation did them, and within a month before, they all got cancelled. I don't know whether it was due to low ticket sales or due to, I don't know, safety precautions. But yeah, I wouldn't. I like the idea of people had the option. Like, I don't think personally I would have gone to Driven, but I think it was great to get like people in like touring crews and techs and get all of them back to work and stuff. So I think it's great on that side anyway.
No question. Well, Tyla, obviously the new album is called We're the Bastards. It's out on November 13th. I personally advise everybody to get it. It is, if you like just straight up rock and roll, if you like rock and roll that you drink like 2 to 4 shots with, that's what I call this. It's not a single shot one, and it's not just a beer band. You guys need a couple of shots to really get the blood flowing, but it's a great record. I suggest everybody get it. And Tyla, where should people go online to keep up with you guys? And, once touring starts, find out where you're playing and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So if you go to philcampbell.net, that's a pretty straightforward one. You got all our tour dates on there, and then you've got all the links to our Facebook and our merch store, and you can pre-order the album straight from our website. So I just advise everyone to go there, and I hope everyone enjoys the album, and I'm very happy that you like it, and I hope more people do too.
No question. Well, Tyla, thanks so much for checking in, and everybody for watching right here on Aftershocks.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast, and be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com. For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.